to talk about is generosity, and your candle loses nothing when it lights another. The summary, well, it kind of starts out talking about it starts in your heart, and it talks about Elisabeth Elliot. And Elisabeth Elliot and her husband, they committed to mission. They committed to the mission field. Of course, I can't think of where it's at now. I'll glance at it really quick. In Ecuador, to Indians. And they gave up everything and went there, and they kind of were mentoring there to the Indians and kind of making some progress. Well, her husband and some other men really had it in their heart to go out and help and go out and try to minister to the Akua Indians. And these were fierce, ferocious Indians. They killed everyone. Anyone who went over there, you know, they all died always. And you know, Elizabeth and this man, when he decided to finally go, they had a 10-month-old baby. But these men had sent care packages to them, and they were trying to reach them, and they sent pictures so they would prepare them. So that the men left out to go to the Akua Indians. And when they got there, they kind of were like, there was a family that was there, and they thought that they had good progress. And then a couple of days later, the people in his wife and the other wives, they didn't hear anything back. So they sent a search party out, and of course they found all of the men who went dead with the arrows. They're just floating in the water. Well, you know, after disillusioning your husband and having a 10-month-old, being a woman on your own in a foreign mission field, normally you think they would come back home. Well, this was not the case for Elisabeth Elliot. She stayed there and continued to devote her life to the Indians of the village they were serving. But eventually, they were able to go and minister to the Akua Indians. And she went and she served them and she ministered to them and she loved them. And 2 of them happened to be men who killed her husband. So I thought that was very generous of her to, you know, commit and be able to go through with that, which I guess that was commitment. But it was generosity because she gave her whole life for them. Mm-hmm. It kind of talks about be grateful for whatever you have. If you can't be grateful for what you have, then it may be hard to be generous because you're going to be so caught up in, oh, I don't have this, I don't have this. But it's important. Put people first. That's the key step for generosity, because if you don't put people first, then you're never going to want to do things for them. Don't allow the desire for possessions to control you. If you are so worried about what you have and you're not given, then, you know, your possessions will control you. Regard money as a resource. It mainly focuses on, like, the different background of, like, stereotypes of money. Like, if you die with it, then you're holding on to it. If you're rich, you know you don't give, kind of like just different aspects of money. But it was saying, like, you have to spend it, get rid of it, you know, be generous with it. If you have a lot, then you do something with it. And it kind of talks about developing a habit for giving, which that's kind of explanatory. And then it talks about what are you doing with your time, and that kind of focuses on, like, are you serving people, are you giving to people, are you committing your time to people, and that kind of thing. Keywords were heart, give, content, service, money. Generosity, the biblical connection I used was Joseph of Arimathea, when he went to wrap Jesus' body in linen and ask Pilate for his body. And then also kind of put the churches of Macedonia, because Paul kind of talks about how they didn't really have a lot, but they were very generous. The pun, that's hard for me. And then the movie clip I used, which, not the first one, if you want. Well, it's from Cinderella. It's from the 2015 live version. But you're gonna have to pause it really quick. But fast. But it's basically her stepmother. She wants to go to the ball, and she's wearing her mother's dress, who had died when she was younger. And they're like, you can't go out to the ball in that. You're going to be seen as embarrassment, blah, blah, blah. And then they rip her dress. And then as soon as that happens, you know, she's emotional. She's crying. She runs out of the house. And then she interacts with what she didn't know at the time, but her fairy godmother. And the fairy godmother asks her for a cup of milk. And while she's crying and sad, she gives it to her. And then, bam, fairy godmother.
All right, good job.
But